In the heart of Odiu, a small village surrounded by lush forests and golden fields, there was a river that everyone revered. The river Agba wasn't just a source of water. It was alive with mysteries, its depth said to hold the secrets of the spirit world. The villagers called it Nwanyi Agba, or Mother Agba, for they believed it was a mother to all, nurturing, protective, but also capable of great wrath when disrespected. Among the villagers was Ada, a young fisherwoman known for her courage. Ada's dark skin glowed like polished ebony in the sun, and her quick smile could brighten even the gloomiest day. She lived in a small hut with her mother, Awil, a widowed woman whose wisdom was sought by everyone in the village. While other girls Ada's age spent their days weaving baskets or learning to cook, Ada preferred the river. She would wake up before the cock crowed, tie her wrapper tightly around her waist, and set off with her fishing net slung over her shoulder. Her canoe was old, patched many times by her own hands, but it carried her faithfully across the waters. "Why must you go so early?" her mother would ask, her voice tinged with worry. "The river spirits do not like to be disturbed at dawn." Ada would laugh, her voice light and teasing. "Mama, the river loves me. Besides, the best fish are caught before the sun is high." Awil would shake her head. "Ada, you are fearless to a fault. One day, the river will show you its true power." That morning, the village was still asleep when Ada paddled her canoe to her favorite spot. The river was quiet, its surface smooth as glass, reflecting the pale light of the early sky. Birds chirped softly from the nearby trees, and the air smelled fresh and clean. Ada loved this time of day. It was as if the world belonged only to her and the river. She cast her net into the water with practiced ease and leaned back, humming a tune her mother used to sing when she was a child. But as the net sank into the water, she felt something strange. The river seemed alive beneath her, its ripples forming patterns that looked almost like writing. She frowned and pulled her net. It was heavier than usual, as though it had caught something big. Her muscles strained as she hauled it up, and when it finally emerged, her eyes widened in shock. Caught in the net was not the usual wriggling fish, but a necklace. It was golden, with a pendant shaped like a crescent moon. It glowed faintly, as if holding the light of the stars within it. Ada's heart raced. "What is this? Did someone lose it?" she whispered to herself. As she reached out to untangle it, a deep voice boomed around her, though no one was in sight. "Return what you have taken, child of man, or you will face the wrath of Agba." Ada gasped, dropping the net. Her canoe rocked dangerously as the river began to churn. Waves splashed against her boat, and a whirlpool formed where the necklace had fallen. "Wait, I didn't mean to take it," she cried, her voice trembling with fear. But it was too late. The whirlpool grew larger, sucking her and her canoe into its depths. Ada's world spun as she was pulled underwater. She tried to scream, but the water swallowed her voice. The light above her faded, replaced by a shimmering blue glow. She thought she was drowning, her chest tight with panic, but suddenly she felt herself landing softly on solid ground. When she opened her eyes, Ada gasped. She was no longer in the river. Around her stretched a world of beauty unlike anything she had ever seen. The ground beneath her feet shimmered like crushed gemstones, and strange, glowing plants swayed as if moved by an invisible breeze. The water here wasn't heavy or suffocating. It was light and breathable, like air. "Where am I?" she whispered, her voice echoing. Before she could take another step, a group of figures emerged from the shadows. They were women, but not like any Ada had ever seen. Their skin gleamed with an otherworldly light, their hair flowed like rivers, and their lower bodies were covered in shimmering scales. They were mermaids, their beauty both enchanting and terrifying. One of them, taller than the rest, swam forward. Her eyes were green as emeralds, and her voice was sharp and commanding. "Who dares trespass into the kingdom of Agba?" Ada stammered, "I didn't mean to. The river pulled me in." The mermaid sneered. "A human? The river pulled you in? Do you think we are fools?" Before Ada could answer, another voice spoke, calm and deep like the river itself. "Enough, Tamara." The mermaids parted, and a figure stepped forward. He was tall, his skin shimmering like the surface of the water on a moonlit night. His eyes glowed silver, and a crown of pearls and seaweed rested upon his head. He wore robes that seemed to flow like liquid, and his presence was commanding yet gentle. Ada's breath caught in her throat. She didn't need anyone to tell her who he was. She knew instinctively that this was the river god. "You are Ada," the river god said, his voice resonating with power. "The fisherwoman who found my necklace." Ada dropped to her knees, her heart pounding. "I didn't mean to take it, Great One. Please forgive me." The river god smiled, and the tension in the room eased. "You have nothing to fear, child. You did not steal the necklace, you saved it. Thieves had tried to take it from me, but the river chose you to protect it." The mermaid Tamara frowned, her eyes narrowing. A human, protecting the sacred necklace. The river god ignored her. He stepped closer to Ada, his gaze kind. "For your bravery, I owe you a debt. What is it you desire?" Ada hesitated. I just want to return home to my village." The river god nodded. "I will grant your wish, but first stay a while in my kingdom. Let me show you its wonders." Ada didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to refuse and leave this strange world, but another part of her was curious. What harm could it do to stay for a little while? "Thank you, Great One," she said quietly. The river god extended his hand, and when Ada took it, a strange warmth filled her. "Come," he said, leading her deeper into the glowing underwater kingdom. Ada followed the river god through the glowing expanse of the underwater kingdom, her senses overwhelmed by its beauty. Giant coral towers rose like mountains, shimmering with every color of the rainbow. Schools of fish darted in synchronized patterns, their scales catching the soft, ethereal light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Strange plants, glowing with soft blues and greens, swayed rhythmically as if bowing in respect to the river god's presence. "Does your world not feel suffocating to you, Ada?" the river god asked, glancing at her. Ada hesitated. "No, Great One. It feels free. Like a dream." The river god's lips curve into a small smile. "It is no dream. This is the heart of Agba, the world beneath the river. Few humans have ever seen it, and fewer still have been invited." Tamara, the emerald-eyed mermaid, swam behind them, her jealousy thinly veiled. She muttered under her breath, "Invited?" More like stumbled in by accident. Ada heard her, but chose to ignore the remark. She had always been good at keeping her composure, but she couldn't shake the feeling that Tamara's hostility would be a problem. "Do not mind Tamara," the river god said, his voice calm but firm. "She is protective of this kingdom, as are all my children. They do not yet see the value of what you have done." Ada nodded but felt a pang of unease. She wasn't sure if she had truly earned her place here, or if she was simply caught in something far beyond her understanding. That evening, the river god hosted a feast in Ada's honor. Long tables carved from luminous shells were laid out in the grand hall, piled high with delicacies Ada had never seen before. Plump sea grapes that tasted like honey, crystal clear water that sparkled with a flavor richer than palm wine, and steaming dishes of golden fish that melted on the tongue. Mermaids, mermen, and other sea creatures gathered, their voices filling the hall with music and laughter. But Ada couldn't shake the sharp glances from some of them. Whispers floated through the air. "She's only human. What is she doing here? Why does the river god show her such favor?" Tamara sat at the far end of the table, her arms crossed, her gaze fixed on Ada like a hunter sizing up its prey. The river god raised his hand, and the room fell silent. "Today, we celebrate Ada," he said, his voice echoing with authority. "She has done a great service to this kingdom by protecting the sacred necklace. As a sign of my gratitude, I offer her a gift." He turned to Ada, his silver eyes glowing. In his hand, he held a bracelet made of tiny, shimmering blue stones. He stepped forward and slipped it onto her wrist. It felt warm against her skin, and as soon as it touched her, a gentle hum resonated in her chest. "This bracelet will protect you," the river god said. "As long as you wear it, no harm will come to you in this kingdom or beyond." Ada looked up at him, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you, Great One. I don't know how to repay your kindness." The river god smiled, but there was something in his gaze, something deep and unspoken. "You already have." After the feast, Tamara retreated to her chambers, her mind boiling with rage. She paced back and forth, her long tail flicking against the walls. "This is unacceptable," she hissed to her closest companion, a smaller mermaid named Xena. "The river god shows her more favor than he has ever shown to any of us." "But Tamara," Xena said hesitantly, "she saved the necklace." "Perhaps she is." Silence. Tamara snapped. "She is nothing. A human. She doesn't belong here." Xena shrank back. "What will you do?" Tamara's lips curled into a sly smile. "I will show the river god that she is not worthy of his trust. Humans are greedy, selfish creatures. It is only a matter of time before she reveals her true nature. And when she does, I will be there to make sure he sees it." Meanwhile, Ada found herself drawn closer to the river god with each passing day. He was not like the men in her village, who boasted of their strength but often lacked kindness. The river god was gentle, thoughtful, and wise, and he seemed to see Ada not just as a human, but as someone worthy of his time and respect. One evening, as they walked along a glowing underwater garden, the river god turned to her. "Do you miss your village, Ada?" Ada paused, the question catching her off guard. I do," she admitted. "But there is nothing for me there except my mother. The villagers see me as strange because I do not want what they want. I love the river. It is the only place where I feel free." The river god nodded, his gaze thoughtful. "You are like the river itself, wild, untamed, and full of life. That is why I admire you." Ada blushed, her heart racing. She had never been admired before, at least not like this. "Tell me," the river god said, his voice soft, "if you could stay here forever, would you?" Ada hesitated. The kingdom was beautiful, and the river god's presence filled her with a warmth she had never known. But something held her back. "I don't know," she said honestly. "This world is magical, but it is not mine. I am human. I don't belong here." The river god's expression darkened for a moment, as though her words had hurt him. But he quickly masked it with a smile. "Perhaps you belong in both worlds, Ada. Only time will tell." Tamara was not idle during this time. She had been watching Ada closely, waiting for a moment of weakness. She noticed how Ada often gazed at the portal that connected the underwater world to the river above, her expression wistful. One day, Tamara approached her with a sly smile. "You seem troubled, Ada." Ada looked up, startled. "Tamara, I didn't hear you." "I couldn't help but notice you staring at the portal," Tamara said, her voice sweet but laced with malice. "Do you wish to return to your village?" I don't know," Ada admitted. "I miss my mother, but this place feels like a second home." Tamara's smile widened. "If you wish, I could help you visit the village. Just for a short while, of course. I'm sure the river god wouldn't mind." Ada hesitated. She wasn't sure she could trust Tamara, but the thought of seeing her mother tugged at her heart. "You would do that?" "Of course," Tamara said, her tone syrupy. "After all, we're friends, aren't we?" Ada nodded slowly. "Thank you, Tamara. That means a lot to me." Tamara's smile turned cold as she swam away. "Enjoy your visit," she muttered under her breath. "It will be your last." True to her word, Tamara led Ada to the portal that connected the marine world to the surface. The portal shimmered like a curtain of water suspended in midair, its surface rippling with silvery light. Tamara's emerald eyes glinted as she gestured toward it. "Step through," Tamara said, her voice as smooth as oil. "It will take you to the riverbank near your village. But remember, the river god has blessed you with a bracelet. It will protect you as long as you don't take it off." Ada clutched the bracelet on her wrist. It was her only link to the river god's protection, and she wasn't sure if she should trust Tamara. But her longing to see her mother outweighed her doubts. "Thank you, Tamara," Ada said, stepping toward the portal. Tamara's smile tightened, and for a fleeting moment, Ada thought she saw something sinister in the mermaid's expression. But before she could question it, the portal pulled her in. Ada stumbled out of the portal onto the riverbank, the warm sun on her face and the familiar smell of earth filling her lungs. She was back in Odu. The sight of the tall palm trees and the sound of distant drumming brought a flood of memories. For a moment, she felt at peace. She hurried through the village paths, her bare feet kicking up dust. When she reached her hut, her mother, a wheel, was sitting outside, grinding millet. The older woman looked up, her eyes widening in disbelief. Ada, Awil cried, dropping the mortar and running to embrace her daughter. Where have you been? I thought the river had swallowed you. Tears welled in Ada's eyes as she hugged her mother tightly. I'm sorry, Mama. I've been far away. Awil pulled back, holding her daughter at arm's length. Far away? What do you mean? And what is this bracelet? Ada hesitated, unsure how much she could explain. It's a long story, Mama. But I'm safe. That's what matters. Awil nodded, though her eyes remained clouded with worry. The village has been restless since you disappeared. There have been whispers that the spirits of the river are angry. As Ada stayed with her mother, she noticed that something was amiss in Odu. The river, once clear and life-giving, had become murky. Fish were dying, and the crops near the riverbank were withering. The villagers muttered among themselves, blaming unseen forces. The river spirits are angry, said Obi, the village elder, during a gathering under the baobab tree. We must offer a sacrifice to appease them. What kind of sacrifice? Someone asked. The best we have, Obi replied gravely. A life. Ada's blood ran cold. She knew the river god was kind and just, not one to demand lives. Something else was at play. But she couldn't reveal what she knew without exposing her connection to the underwater world. Later that night, as she sat with her mother, Awil asked, Ada, do you know anything about what is happening to the river? Ada hesitated. She wanted to tell her mother the truth, but how could she explain what she had seen? Finally, she said, I don't know, Mama. But I think it's not what the elders think. Awil sighed. Be careful, my daughter. The river is powerful. You cannot stand against it. Meanwhile, back in the marine kingdom, Tamara was not idle. She swam to the sacred chamber where the portal was anchored. Her jealousy had festered into hatred, and she was determined to rid the river god's kingdom of Ada forever. With a wave of her hand, Tamara summoned a group of loyal mermaids. The portal must be sealed, she told them. Ada has abused the river god's kindness. She has returned to the human world to conspire against us. But Tamara, Xena said hesitantly, what if the river god finds out? He will be furious. Tamara's eyes flashed with anger. He won't find out until it's too late. Do as I say. The mermaids worked together, weaving a spell to seal the portal. Its shimmering surface grew dim, and the silvery light faded until nothing but a blank wall of water remained. Tamara smirked. Let her stay in the human world where she belongs. She will never return to take what is ours. In Odu, Ada began to feel the weight of her absence from the marine world. Her bracelet, which had once glowed warmly, now felt cold and heavy. She tried to use it to communicate with the river god, but the connection was faint, as if something was blocking it. One night, as she sat by the riverbank, she whispered, Great One, can you hear me? Please, I need your guidance. The river remained silent. Ada's heart sank. She feared that the river god had abandoned her, or worse, that she had somehow lost his favor. But her doubts were interrupted by a strange sensation. The bracelet pulsed faintly, and for a brief moment, she felt the presence of the river god. His voice was distant but urgent. Ada, danger, trust no one. The connection broke, leaving Ada trembling. She knew then that something was terribly wrong. The murky water, the dying fish, the silence from the marine world. It was all connected, and she suspected that Tamara had something to do with it. As the days passed, Ada began to feel changes within her. Her stomach grew rounder, and though she had not been with any man, she knew the truth. The river god had left a part of himself with her, a child. One night, as she lay in her hut, she felt a strange warmth radiating from her belly. Then a soft voice echoed in her mind, clear and innocent. Mother, I can help. Ada sat up, her heart racing. Who's there? It's me, the voice said. Your child. The bond between us is strong. I can help you find a way back. Tears filled Ada's eyes. She had never felt so connected to anything in her life. How? The portal is sealed. Not all doors are closed, the child said. We can forge a new one. But you must trust me. Ada placed her hands on her stomach, feeling the warmth of her unborn child's presence. "I trust you,"